Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From Cardinals headquarters, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Well, as Larry Fitzgerald said following the game, the only thing that is guaranteed is we're not going 16-0 now. And he's right, but it's how he arrived at those comments that is concerning to fans and, my guess, coaches and players as well. It was not, Mike, a fun watch on Sunday.
No, I didn't anticipate that happening. I thought it'd be a close game. I knew that Washington, obviously, in the offseason went out and tried to improve their run defense. They were ranked 32nd in football last year. And let's be honest, the word out of Washington was they think they've upgraded the quarterback position with Alex Smith. And then Adrian Peterson, he's motivated because people don't think he's got a lot left. But I didn't anticipate that happening. And, you know, that you look at the game and you go, that wasn't the same team we watched in training camp or the preseason, and I know they didn't show a lot in the preseason, but things got to change in a quick hurry here.
Yeah, quick and fast. It was not a good first impression for head coach Steve Wilks and the 2018 Cardinals. We'll touch on all of it here as the show takes off on this Monday. We'll get into what didn't work offensively, Sam Bradford's inaccuracy and lack of third down success. We'll hear from Sam Bradford following the game. And defensively, the inability to stop the run, something that the Cardinals dealt with in the preseason. And, of course, your questions via social media as well. But first, let's go back, as painful as it may be, and recap Sunday's 24-6 defeat at State Farm Stadium. The Week 1 season opener was not good, although it did begin well for the Cardinals. The defense forcing the Redskins to punt, and then we saw David Johnson, a big run of 11 yards. However, that drive would stall with the Cardinals having to punt. The Redskins on their second possession, well, they went 11 plays, 80 yards, and it capped off with Chris Thompson's 13-yard touchdown from Alex Smith.
Yeah, and you start looking at it from that standpoint. You thought the Cardinals would basically try to move down the field, but then you got to look at the Redskins, and they obviously were winning the line of scrimmage. It seemed like they were one step of the Cardinals, and they basically were able to run the ball and get down the field and score a touchdown.
Adrian Peterson, a 1-yard touchdown run, made it 14-0 as AD against his former team was just that. And to cap it off, another Alex Smith touchdown, and this one to Jordan Reed made it 21-0, all 21 points in the second quarter, and that's where the Cardinals were at halftime, trailing 21-0. It was not a good first half.
No, and Sam Bradford talked about it after the game. I think after their fourth possession, he said he looked up at the scoreboard and it was 21-0, and that's what happens when you don't convert on third down. The defense was on the field the majority of the game, and you look from that standpoint. They did try to throw the ball down the field. Larry Fitzgerald had 2 catches for 27 yards. That was the longest play from scrimmage. But unfortunately, some of the other receivers didn't step up. And that's where you see some, Larry just catching the ball. You got to have more than just Larry Fitzgerald. We know he's going to be targeted. We know he's the go-to guy. And if they're bracketing Larry Fitzgerald, that means you're opening up for other wide receivers to get off the line of scrimmage.
Fitz's second 27-yard catch. That drive stalled after Bradford overthrew Ricky Seals-Jones and was picked off by Quentin Dunbar, and that set up another scoring opportunity for the Redskins. They kicked a field goal to make it 24-0 in favor of Washington. That was early in the fourth quarter. And then once again, the Redskins' ability to run the football, whether it was Adrian Peterson or Chris Thompson, either catching the ball out of the backfield as well. They had all kinds of success against this Cardinals defense. But there was one bright spot for the Cardinals offensively. It was David Johnson, fresh off a contract extension, was able to punch it in for the Cardinals' lone score to make it 24-6. The 2-point conversion failed, though.
On that drive, they never faced a third down. And you're thinking, all right, you're going to halftime, you make some adjustments. Usually that first possession in the third quarter is big. Unfortunately, they didn't score there, but this team had a hard time converting on third down.
Special teams looked very, very good. Christian Kirk, in particular, a 44-yard punt return. We saw what he could do in the preseason. It's only a matter of time, in my opinion, that he does break one off and score on punt return or perhaps kickoff return, but he was exclusively the punt returner on Sunday. Brandon Williams was deep on kickoffs with TJ Logan inactive for that game. And we also saw David Johnson catch the ball out of the backfield as well as they tried to mount a comeback 24-6, but trying to go for it on 4th and goal, trying to get ever so much closer to Washington. Sam Bradford throws incomplete to Ricky Seals-Jones, and the Cardinals turn it over on downs, and for all intents and purposes, that was basically it. The Cardinals did get a turnover. They forced a turnover. Trey Boston was able to rip the football away from Peterson. He recovered it, but then that led to Bradford getting sacked and him turning the football over, as the end of the ball game ends with a Bradford sack, and then also Alex Smith in victory formation taking the knee to make it a final 24-6 in front of a stunned State Farm Stadium in Week 1.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just one of those things. You go into the game and you're thinking, all right, everyone knows they're going to run the football, and they really didn't take some shots down the field. J.J. Nelson only played one offensive snap, and again, we get fixated on throwing the ball down the field. I'm interested in those intermediate routes, and hopefully guys like Christian Kirk and Chad Williams. We didn't see Trent Sherfield as a wide receiver. J.J. Nelson, according to the game plan, wasn't really involved. But they got to get these intermediate routes. It's great you want to throw it 40 or 50 yards down the field, but if you can get these guys to win at the line of scrimmage, get off press coverage, and use that slant pass. Now, normally Bradford makes that throw to Ricky Seals-Jones. Okay, I know it was low, and it would have been a tough catch, but normally he makes that. And the interception, you normally don't see him overthrow the ball. I don't know what happened to Sam Bradford. It just seems like when you play the quarterback position, you have to get in a rhythm. And he wasn't able to get in a rhythm, and sometimes the quarterback has to create that rhythm himself. But when you go 3 and out, and you're punting and not picking up first downs, now all of a sudden you start pressing a little bit. And that has to change because we know how accurate Sam Bradford is, and we didn't see that yesterday.
How good did the Washington Redskins control this ball game? Well, here are some numbers. Time of possession, 38 minutes compared to the Cardinals' 22. 30 first downs compared to the Cardinals' 14. And total yards, 429 to 213, and rightfully so. It was not a good performance on either side of the football for the Arizona Cardinals. The guys who had the call of the game here on the Arizona Cardinals Radio Network, Dave Pasch and Ron Wolfley. Let's hear their thoughts in this edition of the 2-Minute Drill.
It's time for the Arizona Cardinals 2-Minute Drill. Dave Pasch and Ron Wolfley. Wolf, I have no idea where to start, so I'll leave that to you, the expert. What happened today?
The line of scrimmage, David, on both sides of the ball. We were talking about it before coming into this game, what a key it was going to be for the Arizona Cardinals. It was critical. They were able to run the ball and keep Sam Bradford in a three-dimensional offense where you run it, throw it, and use the power of play action. And also on the defensive side of the ball, just the fact they could not stop the run, that allowed Washington to move the ball, and any time you're going to move the ball, you have the opportunity of scoring points. It was a line of scrimmage where the Arizona Cardinals lost this game to me.
We've seen before teams struggle in week 1, and it doesn't mean that the season is over. The Cardinals, even in their Super Bowl year, had games where they got blown out, and they still made it all the way to that final game. What has to change between now and when they play the Rams?
I would say, first of all, David, just gap discipline across the board with their defense. It wasn't good today. That in tackling. Tackling was not good today either. They've got to get a lot better play out of their linebackers as well. I think Josh Bynes and Dayon Buchanan, and it wasn't just in the run game, but I think those guys got isolated here today, and they're going to have to pick it up. And I know that Dayon, being the dog that he is, he's going to have a bad taste in his mouth till next week.
One thing that surprised me was the inaccuracy of Sam Bradford. Only Drew Brees has been more accurate the last 3 years in the NFL. Maybe it's because it was his first regular season game in almost a year. I'm not sure, but he was off the mark in this ballgame.
Or maybe, David, it was just an anomaly for Sam Bradford. That's obviously what many of us are hoping for. But listen, Bradford is a guy that has been accurate throughout his career. Today, he was not, and he's going to have to pick it up as well.
All right, we know what happens for teams that go to 0-2. Most of them don't make the playoffs, so the Cardinals got to find a way to win in L.A. that'll do it for the Arizona Cardinals 2-minute drill.
Appreciate Dave Pasch, Ron Wolfley here as we continue on Cards Cover 2. Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki with you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 p.m. live from the Cardinals facility in Tempe. Of course, you can watch live on azcardinals.com/live video. Find us on YouTube, search Cards Cover 2, and download as a podcast should you miss an episode via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. And, of course, your social media questions a little bit later on in the show using the hashtag CardsCover2. That's hashtag CardsCover2 using the number 2. We did hear from head coach Steve Wilks earlier in the day. Just a couple of quick notes. No injury updates, which, knock on wood, is good for right now. Team is waiting MRI results on right tackle Andre Smith. He was forced to come out of the game in the fourth quarter after hurting his left elbow. John Wetzel replaced him and played nearly as many snaps, 25, compared to Smith's 29. That just shows you how much more the Cardinals had possession and able to maintain possession in the second half compared to the first half. Wilks also addressed the crowd booing, which was loud and clear and very early in the game, second quarter after the team's third possession of the game.
You know what? It was well-deserved. Well-deserved. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm disappointed in the mere fact that we couldn't put a more productive game together for our fans, and we're going to make sure that we, go out this week and practice hard and have a great game plan and go out and execute. But with the fans booing, they come there, they support us, they pay their money, and they want to see a good product, and we didn't put a good product on the field yesterday.
Yeah, I agree with them. The fans were excited. They heard all the optimism, at least going into the season. They were encouraged with the new coaching staff and new quarterbacks and some new players. And you got some existing players returning. The night before, David Johnson gets a contract extension, so they were fired up in the locker room. But I understand, and to me, this should be a wake-up call. The fact that you're getting booed in the first game of the year in the second quarter, and he's right. They pay their hard-earned money, and they were disappointed, just like everyone else is. But this has to be a wake-up call, not so much from a booing standpoint, but they got to go out there and they must play better. This team has played so well at home over the years. Not that it was an automatic. You still got to show up and play. We remember a couple years ago in Week 1 against the New England Patriots. No Tom Brady. No Rob Gronkowski. Nate Solder was out. Both of their tackles were out. And they got beat by a backup quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. This is the NFL. But the most part here, they have fed off the crowd. And I thought the crowd was loud in that first quarter. They were getting some false start penalties, and I give the crowd that because you watch the Washington Redskins, they were using a silent count. They were prepared all week for that, and I thought the crowd did a good job. But they were hoping for more. And so they voiced their opinion, and for the most part, when you look at it, they put a better product out there like they will in the future, they'll be cheering.
Yeah, the Cardinals will be back in front of their home fans in Week 3 when they host the Chicago Bears. All right, let's dive into it offensively and begin right there. The lack of execution. You already touched on J.J. Nelson only playing one offensive snap, and hearing Coach Wilks not only after the game on Sunday but earlier here on Monday, it was because of what Washington was able to do, and that is jump out to an early lead and basically limit the possessions that the Cardinals had in that first half. And that, according to Wilks, really affected what the Cardinals wanted to do from a game plan situation. That is why kind of things snowballed on them, and it just never were able to play. You want to play from ahead, and the Cardinals unfortunately played from behind the entire ballgame.
Yeah, and you start looking at the third downs. They had 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 3. They had a 3rd and 6 and drew a penalty there, so now it's 3rd and 11. They had 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 7. So now those are passing downs, but again, you're trying to get to the sticks so you can get a new set of downs. You're not going to take a 3rd and 7 to throw it down the field. You like to get a chunk play, but again, where was Christian Kirk and Chad Williams? Those guys had plenty of opportunities, not as many as Larry Fitzgerald or maybe a Ricky Seals-Jones. But some of those other guys, wide receiver-wise, they have to get open. And if they're open, I would assume Bradford's going to find them. Bradford, he's going to target Larry, but he's also one of those quarterbacks like Kurt Warner. If you're the first guy he sees open, he's going to throw it to you.
And we heard from Pash talk about Bradford specifically the inaccuracy, and Coach Wilks called it, quote, very surprising. Bradford on the day, 20 of 34 for a $153. He was intercepted once and sacked twice. Let's hear from the Cardinals quarterback following yesterday's ball game.
You know, we got to do a better job converting thirds down to keep ourselves on the field. You know, when you run 13 plays in the first half, though, it's tough. You know, but there's no doubt that we've got to be better.
How did you feel out there tonight?
Well, obviously not very good. You know, physically I felt fine. Just, you know, it felt like I never really got in a rhythm as well.
Well, how come? Why do you think that was?
I mean, kind of like I just said. I mean, we ran 13 plays in the first half, and then we come out in the second half, and I think our second or third drive, we're in no huddle trying to get back at it. You know, we got to figure out a way to get points early. We got to figure out a way to convert third downs. You know, I think third down is obviously the biggest issue moving forward. Obviously, no one wants to start the season like this. You know, we felt like we were in a much better position. You know, we felt like we were going to come out here and play much better than we did. You know, but you know, it's one game. You know, we've got to figure out a way to bounce back. We've got to figure out a way, you know, to watch the film tomorrow, figure out exactly what it is that needs to be corrected, correct it. You know, we can't let this game beat us twice. You know, so we've got to figure out a way to just stay positive, you know, and keep moving. I mean, I think you have a general idea. You know, like I said, you know, third down was an issue tonight, but I think tomorrow we'll have a better understanding of exactly why we were struggling the way we did tonight.
Do you think the offense's problems kind of have anything to do with the fact that you guys played so well together?
I mean, I said it before. I mean, I've had preseasons where you go out there and, you know, you play great, and then you come out here and you don't play so well. I've had preseasons where you go out there and you look terrible in the preseason and you play a lot, and then you come out and you light it up week one. So I'm not really sure if there's a correlation to that.
How could this game beat you twice if you don't study film and correct the mistakes that we were referring to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're all disappointed in our performance tonight, you know, but you can't hang your head. You know, you've got to understand that this, you know, season is 16 games. You know, a win or a loss, it counts just as one. And, you know, we've got to make sure that next week, you know, we've put this in the past, we've corrected all the mistakes, and we're ready to go out there and play LA.
Now, the good news on Sunday for Bradford is he felt fine physically, so the knee did not appear to be an issue, and I thought the offensive line held up pretty well as far as a pocket is concerned. What did you see, or maybe what did you not see as far as Bradford? Because to me, this was not something that we saw in training camp or preseason. That ball hit the ground way too many times.
Yeah, I just saw a team that was not getting positive yards on first and second down, putting them in the hole in third and long, and you know, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7 is not, you know, not easy pickup downs. You know, I don't know if they were protecting Bradford more than they would in like they did in the preseason. Maybe it was we want to get him a little bit of rhythm, but again, when you're going 3 and out, I didn't really see a whole lot of difference in his cadence, his check with me, where he has 3 plays in his helmet and he can check out of a play. The fact is that I don't think they showed him anything that he hadn't seen this year, or at least on film. Even though he's gone against Greg Minuski, their defensive coordinator in the past, it just looked like to me that they didn't have any rhythm. And sometimes you need a big play to jumpstart your offense. And I thought the way they started with that David Johnson run, that we're going to see a lot more of David Johnson. Now, again, when you're trailing 21-0 and they're stacking the box and they're forcing you to throw, and now they're really pinning their ears back to get after the quarterback, it's difficult to do. You can't abandon the run to me in the first half. You still have to show it. You have to show it, and now you're looking at maybe 2nd and 3rd, 3rd and 1, where if you throw it on first down and you don't connect, now you're sitting at 2nd and 10, where you have to get positive yards. So I think it was a combination where they weren't able to get really good yardage on 1st and 2nd down, and it led to him pressing on 3rd down.
Now we're sitting here on Monday talking about wide receivers like we have been all offseason as far as who is going to step up alongside Larry Fitzgerald. Wide receivers not named Fitzgerald caught just 1 football on Sunday. That was Christian Kirk. A total of 5 targets between Kirk and Chad Williams. Head coach Steve Wilks asked about the lack of productivity amongst his wide receivers earlier today.
Larry's was one of the featured targets this week in the game plan, you know, initially, and that's how it was going. I just think, again, Sam going through his progression, and making sure that, guys are doing their job. I think we're going to be able to spread the ball around, but I just think this past week, Larry stepped up. He made some great plays, and I don't think this is just, a situation to where you're going to try to say that's all we have on offense. I think those other guys are proven. I think they can step up and make plays as well.
Fitz, MJ, was targeted 10 times, had 7 catches for 76 yards, though if you listen to him after the ball game, he put the onus on not the play caller. And we got some calls on Cardinal Talk about Mike McCoy, but for Fitz, who's been around this game for a long, long time, it's on the onus of the wide receivers to get open, create separation, and perhaps maybe we didn't get enough of that on Sunday, but certainly Fitz will love 10 targets every single week, but he can't be the sole guy. And this is not talking about David Johnson or the tight end position. This is strictly wide receiver talk.
Well, I like the fact that they, where they put him in, he was in the slot, and he was able to, usually when he's in the slot, he's running a slant pass. This time he was able to get a little yardage on that 27-yard run, or 27-yard pass, and not only did he do it to the right side of the field, they come back and do it a little bit later on the left side. So we always think Larry's going to get 5 to 8 yards, and then he's going to have to get yards after catch. They actually try to throw it to Larry down the field a little bit more than they have, especially when Arians is here, to kind of get things going, and that should open up for other guys. Listen, when it comes to play calling, I think it's a cop-out. If you have a play called and Bradford has the ability to check out of that play, he's got 3 different plays he can go to, okay? You have to win one-on-one matchups. You can call the play. If you execute the play and all 11 players do it, it's going to be successful. If you got one guy that maybe is going to freelance a little bit, or he decides, I'm gonna run the right route, but I may have to run an extra yard here, then the play is going to get blown up. So when it comes to play calling, it's all hindsight. It's all 20/20. You call the play, execute the play, it will work.
Wilks mentioned earlier on Monday that he was, quote, happy with the 5 receivers they do have on the roster, acknowledged that they did work out receivers late last week, and they'll hold another set of workouts coming up on Tuesday. He mentioned linebackers and tight ends, though that is more of trying to improve the back end of the roster. So guys are going to be coming in and out, and when you hear reports about a wide receiver coming into town or a workout or a different position player, I think, one, every NFL team does it, but it doesn't signal that a change is coming immediately.
Listen, they chose these 5 wide receivers. They've had these wide receivers in camp since off-season workouts. They brought in Braxton Miller last week, a former quarterback turned wide receiver. They brought in Corey Coleman, a former first-round pick. They worked him out. They decided not to make these guys an offer, and it was more about just a ready list, a workout. They had intentions to see, are they better than what they have? And obviously, based on the workout, they weren't worthy of signing. Dez Bryant. The Cardinals don't have any interest in Dez Bryant. First of all, if you watch film, let's just look at the football aspect. He doesn't get separation. Go back to the game last year on Monday night. He doesn't have any interest in blocking in the run game. And he's not a great locker room guy. You don't want this guy coming in the locker room and all of a sudden, let's say he got 1 target in the game. He's going to start complaining. You don't need that, okay? And there's a reason why he's on the street. Now, I don't know if he's 100% healthy. I anticipate him being a vested veteran. He'll sign this week or next week with another team. So cross off Dez Bryant, okay? He would not be a good mix here, and there's a reason why he's still on the street. The other 2 guys, they just felt like the guys they have on the roster are better. And listen, I tell you this all the time. Whoever the last guy is at each position, if there's somebody out there better, that's how you turn the roster over. They don't think those guys they brought in are better because they know what they have in the 5 guys they kept on the 53-man roster.
And, of course, it certainly helps when your offense is maybe able to maintain possession and sustain drives, convert on 3rd down. You've been very adamant about that here so far on the show. Overall, the Cardinals were 1 of 8 on 3rd down. They didn't have a 3rd down converted at all in the entire first half, although there weren't many opportunities. They didn't have a lot of possessions. But 3rd down success is something Coach Wilks touched on earlier on Monday.
I think it could be tough, and again, you go 3 and out. That's always tough. You have to get into a rhythm. You got to be able to move the chains. We got to find ways to execute on third down. And the most important thing, we got to be able to create some positive plays on first and second down, so we're not getting into third and long, and that's where it starts.
Yeah, everyone points to your third down rate, which is important, but what are you doing? How many yards are you gaining on first down to set up second and 4 to you, so you have third and short 2 or fewer yards?
And if I have David Johnson, I'm getting 3 or 4 yards on first down. Not saying I'm running the ball every first down. I mean, again, if they want to load the box, you got to go against the formation and what they're doing. You don't want to just jam it, into the line of scrimmage. But you would think with David Johnson, you get 3 or 4 yards, whether it's on second down. Now you're at 3rd and 6. And the fact is that if they're able to line up and run the football like they want to, sure, you can run it multiple times back to back. You run it till they stop it. Now, that wasn't the case yesterday, so you got to have some balance in your offense where you still have to – you know how I feel about these extended run plays? Like if you want to do a little bit of a reverse, we didn't see that yesterday, or if you got a wide receiver going out for an out pass that's a 4-yard, if the quarterback makes the right throw, you throw it to the outside shoulder on the sidelines, okay, where nobody can intercept it. That, to me, is an extended run play. So now I'm at 2nd and 6. We just didn't see that yesterday.
First 2 snaps offensively for the Cardinals were run plays to David Johnson, +2, +10. On that first drive, he had 24 yards rushing. It was a great start for David Johnson, who only hours earlier had signed a 3-year contract extension, locking him up with the Cardinals through 2021. So those 24 rushing yards on the first drive. He finished, however, with 37. Still had a better than 4-yard per carry average, which is good, and had the lone score in the ballgame for the Cardinals. The question is, though, why didn't he get the ball more? Wilks put a stop to that, saying, look, you're down 21-0. You can't afford to keep running the football, and that's why they kind of all of a sudden the game plan on what they wanted to do changed, because you're staring at a 21-0 deficit. Yeah, you get the entire second half. But up until that point, they hadn't done much as far as being able to move the chains or even get deep into Washington territory to now where you're threatening to score.
All right, let's say hypothetical. 6 of their 8 third downs were 3rd and 5 or more. And one was 3rd and 11 and one was 3rd and 10, okay? If you're in 3rd and 2, now it's either or. I'm taking my chances with David Johnson with a lead fullback. And if I want to run a quick slant with Larry, it's a first down. When you're in 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 10, it becomes a passing down. And they know that. The defense knows that. Now you have to make sure you protect the quarterback. The receiver's got to run the right route, and Bradford's got to be accurate. So it's more than just they have to get more positive yards on the early downs. And like I said, the touchdown they scored, they never faced a third down that entire drive.
Yeah, it was a 13-play, 75-yard drive with Johnson going in from 2 yards out to score. And also on that drive, we saw Chase Edmonds for the first time in the ball game, and he looked pretty good as well with a couple of catches and in runs of 8, 9, and 8 yards. So the Cardinals were doing enough on the ground to move the football. It's just because these possessions didn't last very long. There were a handful of 3-and-outs, and then all of a sudden you're playing from behind, and now you're telling the defense that you are throwing the football.
Okay, and then on the other side of the coin, the defense is on the field for close to 40 minutes. Did you see some of those drives by the Redskins?
Yeah,
10,
all those
11, or 13. I mean, you talk about chewing up the clock, and the key was they just didn't go from the 20 to the 20. When they got in the red zone, they scored touchdowns.
Each of the Washington Redskins scoring drives were at least 10 plays, and the longest, or the shortest, I should say, rather, was 63 yards. So that means, again, your defense is on the field for a long time. The offense doesn't stay on the field for a long time. Now the defense is tired. So the offense certainly needs to do a much better job. And right now, they need to put this game behind them, according to their tackle, Justin Pugh.
You can't let one game snowball. We got to go in. We got to shake this. We got to come out and be who we want to be. Run the ball up front, be physical, and they beat us at our own game tonight.
It's disappointing to start the season like this, but it's even more disappointing when you consider how well you guys were doing in the preseason and had so much momentum coming into this game.
Yeah, preseason's meaningless. We all know that. I mean, we go out there, they're not game planning. We weren't game planning for defenses. We got to go out there and we got to do a better job on Sundays when it counts, and we're going to come back and we're going to get back to the drawing board, and we're going to fix it.
Justin, Sam's probably going to take a lot of the blame for this among the fans. What do you say to those who place the blame on him for this?
Man, it is never one guy's fault. I'll tell you that right now. It is never one player. It is never one unit. It's never. There's 11 guys out there that have to do their job. Up front, we didn't do what we were supposed to do tonight. We got to go out there and we got to dominate the opposing defensive line, and we obviously didn't do that. And it's something that we're all going to go back together, and we're all going to get better, and we're going to go win some games this year.
My apologies to Justin Pugh. Guard Justin Pugh, not tackle.
Right guard
Justin Pugh. So, but any case, this is Cards Cover 2. Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Get to your questions via social media a little bit later on in the show using the hashtag Cards Cover 2, using the number 2 on that hashtag. We're with you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 p.m. here from the Cardinals facility in Tempe, live on azcardinals.com/live video. Catch us on YouTube. Search Cards Cover 2. Also downloadable as a podcast should you miss any part of the show or the show in its entirety. Just search on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. Now let's focus on the Cardinals defense, and this to me was more disappointing than what we saw or didn't see from the Cardinals offense, because when you have a new offense, it takes a little time to get everyone on the right page. We saw that 5 years ago with Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer. It took them 8 weeks for Palmer to really get comfortable in the offense, and the defense returned so many names and starters that the Cardinals were going to have to lean on that side of the ball in order for maybe to win games or at least let the offense catch up. Did not happen, and specifically the rush defense, which we saw in the preseason, MJ, and we're told, yes, it's not a concern, we just need to shore it up. But with Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson, it certainly did not get shored up at least week 1.
No, and I thought Robert Nkemdiche played his best game as a Cardinal. Now, he had his first sack in his career. I thought he had a couple quarterback hits, and he had a tackle for loss. But Dale Buchanan, he didn't play his best game as an Arizona Cardinal. And I know how much it stings with him. If you've ever been in the locker room after a game, this guy's emotional. He'll sit at his locker for 20 minutes with his uniform on, and he'll be upset with himself. Now, he's playing a new position. He was able to practice. He had a little bit of an injury or setback in training camp, but he was able to come back from that. I thought Josh Bynes played well. What I was concerned with was they weren't running up the middle, okay? They were getting to the edge. And that one play that sticks out to me is when they ran that shuffle pass to Adrian Peterson, and he got to the outside, and there was a missed tackle, and then Patrick Peterson got blocked, and he didn't run out of bounds. He stayed in bounds and got another extra yards. So they were able to get to the edge. That surprised me because even though Reddick only played 14 snaps, Hassan Reddick is normally a guy that can get the guy in the flat and make a tackle. Some of the DBs, Budda Baker didn't have his best game. Boston didn't have his best game. Taylor missed a couple tackles. And I'm not just calling certain guys out. I'm just saying as a whole, it comes down to technique and fundamentals. Get your eyes right, okay? We say get your mind right, get your eyes right. Get your technique right. This is something that they're going to have to improve on, okay? Because you touched on it. Considering you're installing a brand new playbook, we talked about the new quarterback, the new offensive coordinator, a couple new linemen. They got a lot of new faces over there. The defense has enough star players until they get Golden back to still be able to carry their water. They have to carry this football team. Yeah, maybe it was an anomaly how many turnovers they forced in the preseason, but they got to be more of a ball hawk, and they got to swarm to the football. We talked to Al Holcomb last week, the defensive coordinator. Got to swarm to the ball. We got to gang tackle Adrian Peterson. Don't know if they were swarming to the ball, and I really think they missed Marcus Golden, not from a production standpoint. This guy plays with energy. He's willing to put his nose in the fan. He plays with his hair on fire. I say that all the time. I think they missed him yesterday, not only from a production standpoint, but bringing energy. And when you make a big hit or a play like that, it can jack up the entire defense. We didn't have a play yesterday from a defensive standpoint where it lifted everyone else up. I think everyone was trying to make a play, and sometimes when you do that and don't play in the frame of the defense, now you're playing as an individual. I know they want to make plays, but you have to play as a team.
Do your job.
Thank you.
Coach Wilks mentioned last night, again on Monday, and about the physicality, something that he has preached since he arrived and day one on April 3rd. The lack of physicality, Coach Wilks addressed that on Monday.
From what I was able to see from watching the tape, I think guys are trying to do too much, instead of just trying to do their job. And that's what we talked about this morning, being one of 11, just trying to go out and do your job and trusting the man beside you. And guys trying to make plays that's not their play, and they're getting out of their gaps. And then again, some of it's just, using our hands, technique, those things as well. And, we're going to get it corrected this week.
182 rushing yards for the Redskins on Sunday. And let's break it down. We knew Adrian Peterson was going to come in and be highly motivated going against his former team. How much did he have left in the tank? 96 rushing yards. Only 3 of his 26 carries lost yards. He had 10 carries of at least 4 yards. And then when he was out of the ball game, in comes Chris Thompson, 65 rushing yards. And those two also had great success catching the ball out of the backfield. And to your point, MJ, it wasn't up the middle. They were getting to the edge quicker than the Cardinals defenders. And when they're able to turn the corner, now they're running downhill. You get Peterson in space. Already he's tough to tackle, but if he gets ahead of steam, it almost becomes impossible, and guys were bouncing off of him left and right.
Well, if you just watched the game yesterday, how many yards did he get yards after contact? They are in position within the line of scrimmage, but he chops those legs, and then all of a sudden you can't stop him, and then he'll do a jump cut on you, and the next thing you know, like I said, that one play, that little shuffle pass they threw him to the outside, he runs on that sidelines, and you're thinking, just push him out of bounds. So he's motivated, and, one thing about Chris Thompson, I talked about it last week, I think he's the best third down back in football. You talk about a guy with fresh legs. We're sitting next to him in the press box, and when he got the ball the first time, it was just so noticeable. He didn't play a single snap in the preseason. I thought he was going to be on a snap count, just like Adrian Peterson, but they were doing so well with that 1-2 punch, they kept it going in the game. And then obviously Alex Smith's able to run a little bit. He can throw the ball down the field. But when Chris Thompson came out there, the fact that, I was worried about conditioning just because he hasn't taken a hit. You see how fast he was? There's no excuse from his side about him not getting any reps in the preseason. I think it's different at certain positions. But Adrian Peterson, yards after contact, I think he had more yards after contact than he would have gotten if he would have went down initially at first contact.
Yeah, it all starts with stopping the run. The Cardinals unable to do that on Monday. Let's take you inside the locker room post-game. One of those defenders right in the middle of it all, defensive tackle Corey Peters.
So we'll get in there tomorrow, figure out what went wrong, definitely get it fixed. Stopping the run is usually our number one priority. So when you allow a team to run for that many yards, it's going to be a hard time winning that game.
How much of it was back control? How much of it was missed tackles? Or
like I said, I'll know more once I watch it. But some of the runs seemed like we didn't fit it right. Definitely there were some missed tackles as well, so probably a little bit of both. So we'll get back to the drawing board, figure out what went wrong, work extra hard because we got a tough opponent next week.
Did they run the ball in any ways that surprised you?
No, from what I could see, it was all runs that we were prepared for, runs that we repped in practice. There's always going to be a wrinkle here or there, but at the end of the day, we got to find a way to do a better job across the board.
What's the level of concern right now, Corey?
Well, I think that, there's no reason to panic, but this is not okay. It's not acceptable. Everybody has to take a good look in the mirror and kind of point that finger at themselves and their responsibility in this, because when you fail at this level, that's not one person, that's not one position group. Everybody bears some blame in this. So, like I said, we'll get in there tomorrow. We'll figure out exactly what went wrong. We'll be very honest about it with one another, and we'll get it fixed.
That's the voice of one of the team leaders in that locker room. Corey Peters doesn't speak a lot or very often, but when he does, it's worth listening to as a team captain. Another team captain in that locker room on the defensive end, Antoine Bethea, 10 tackles, 1 tackle for loss on Sunday after the ball game. He sat down or he had a conversation with Paul Calvisi on the Arizona Cardinals radio network.
Wolf just cited line of scrimmage. I don't know if that's where you start, but where do you start the analysis on this one?
A couple of things. We didn't do a good job stopping the run. The things that we focus on, what we need to do to win, as far as the defense side of the ball, stopping the run, getting off the field on third down. We didn't do a good job today.
You know, Coach said before this one, expect the unexpected, right? And a lot of this was going to be about in-game adjustments. How much of that did you have to do in this game, and how much, you know, with Alex Smith, you know, his first regular season game, you know, how much of that was brand new and maybe took the defense by surprise at times?
No, we wasn't surprised at all. We knew what we was going to get. We knew we was going to get some run play options. We knew they was going to feature Adrian in the run game. We knew he wasn't going to force the ball. So, and that's what they did. It was just situations where we weren't successful on first down. So obviously, you know, D coordinator is in a tough position, second and short. What type of plays to call? So we didn't help ourselves at all this game.
182 yards rushing by Washington. How much of that was gap integrity? Because we heard that after the New Orleans game. Was that still an issue?
Yeah, I think today was. And then, you know, just being honest, you know, we wasn't playing downhill. We wasn't keeping our gaps. We didn't tackle well. All the things that we said that we needed to do to be a dominant defense. So obviously, you know, we got to go back to the drawing board. It's one game. We can't panic, man. We got 15 games left, but you know, this is not the way we wanted to start. But like Coach just said, we're not going to let this one game define our season.
17 takeaways in those 4 preseason games. You didn't get one to the very end. What does that tell you about this game?
Get more takeaways. You know, like I said, it wasn't the outing that we wanted, but like I said, we can't get too crazy. You know, not right now. You know, like I said, go back to the drawing board. In the preseason, we did do a great job getting takeaways. We only got one today, so we just got to continue to keep working at it, and you know, hopefully next week and the games down the road we'll be better.
Did you see this one coming at all?
Of course not. You know, I feel as though we had a great preseason. Practice this week was solid. So definitely didn't see it, but you know, like Coach said, you know, it's going to be some turbulence. It's going to be some unexpected things. We didn't think it was going to come to this first week here in the Nest, but it did. And shoot, man, I've been in this league a long time, man. We can turn this thing around.
Wrapping it up with Antoine Bethea, we know it's a new defense, a lot of new zone coverages, some new concepts. Is there still a learning curve that we saw out there?
Nah, man, we can't make any excuses. We can't make any excuses. We got to play better. That's it.
So as a team captain, what's your message, especially to the secondary?
Man, buckle down. This is not the type of defense that we want to put on film. You know, that's one thing I was saying to the guys. Like, let's put it on film. This is not what we want to put on film. So, we watch the film tomorrow, put it behind us, man. Get ready for the Chargers next week.
Because if there's one thing you know for sure in the NFL, if you don't stop it, you will see it again, right?
Exactly. So we're gonna get a dose of that run play, that run game next week. We gotta, like I said, we gotta tackle better, gap integrity, and we'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Antoine Bethea, back to you guys.
2 words for you, MJ. Todd Gurley. That is who is up next for the Cardinals on Sunday in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and they have a really good offensive line. We'll get into the defensive line and what it means for the Cardinals' offensive line. Yeah, but if you stay in gap control and you technique and you can rely on the guy next to you, he's going to get you. You're not going to totally shut him down. You hope to contain him, though. You don't want him to rip off 20-yard runs. You want to keep him, you know, in front of you, tackle, swarm the ball. It's not going to be easy, though. But the sound bites we've played today, from Justin Pugh to Corey Peters to Antoine Bethea, and I consider those guys leaders. 2 of those 3 guys are captains. Pugh's his first year with the team, so maybe he's a captain down the road. They all take responsibility. They're all as bewildered as we are, just based on they didn't see it coming. But I like the fact that they take responsibility. They know that today's film session is not going to be fun, nor should it, and they got work to do. So I like the fact that there's no excuses. They didn't play well. And those 3 guys, I think just those, based on those sound bites alone, is telling to me that they know what they got to do. This stuff is correctable. One thing is to get physically beat. Another thing is to beat yourselves. This stuff needs to be corrected, and I'm glad that they know what they faced yesterday, and now we'll hopefully see it in practice this week.
There weren't a ton of bright spots, but one on the defensive side we kind of talked about already, but we'll talk a bit more about it, and that is Robert Nkemdiche, who was kind of challenged on Friday by head coach Steve Wilks. The expectation was for him to dominate, and you can make the case that he did. 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, first of his career, and 2 quarterback hits. Here is Coach Wilks after watching the film on Nkemdiche.
I thought he had a pretty good game, and I just talked to him about that. You know, there was one play that he got out of his gap and trying to do too much and trying to spin back inside. But for the most part, he did a great job penetrating, coming off the ball, creating havoc, you know, getting on their side of the line of scrimmage. And it was good to see him do that, particularly with the time that he's missed recently. So for the most part, he did some good things out there.
Now he's got to do it again and again and again and stack these performances throughout the season. Special teams also perform well. We touched on Christian Kirk, the 44-yard punt return. Andy Lee, who we've been raving about since the preseason, 52.6 yards on his 5 punts and placed 3 of his kicks inside the 20-yard line. And when you have that as a weapon, and it is a weapon that doesn't get talked a lot about, you have to make something of it and take advantage of that. And the Cardinals unable to do that on the defensive end when you had the Washington Redskins pinned deep in their own end.
Yeah, I know it's only one game, but you can see the vast improvement on special teams. Now, TJ Logan, he missed practice last week. He was inactive. He normally would be your kick returner. They had 5 touchbacks yesterday. They didn't get anything from the return game when it came to teams. And that could be the way the new rules set up. Maybe teams are going to kick it through the end zone, so you got to come out to 25. Some teams may pooch it based on who's back there. So they really didn't get anything from the kick returner. And if Logan's back there, I got to think he's going to take some chances at some point.
And specifically on the punt return with Christian Kirk, you could see not only the lanes that opened up for him, so credit the blocking that there is, but also Kirk and the vision that he has shown, the ability to watch and be patient, let those lanes open up, and then run through them, and at that point get the 44 yards. And again, I say it, he will have at least 1, dare I say 2, punt return for touchdowns this season.
Well, what sticks out, and I didn't know this about Christian Kirk, his speed.
Yes.
I mean, I look at 40 times, but, we know that Antoine Bethea wasn't the fastest guy. And look at Larry Fitzgerald. He ran a 4.45 at his pro day. When he has what they call game speed, and he showed it in the preseason when he took it back to the house. I love the way he's not afraid to catch the ball. There's 2 things to me you got to be as a punt returner. You got to possess the ball, and you got to know the 10-yard rule. He's not afraid to catch it in traffic. And his first step and his explosion is impressive to me. That's one thing I did not know about Christian Kirk, is he has excellent game speed, and I think it showed in the game yesterday.
Because there's a huge difference between running straight ahead 40 yards and getting timed, and then running game speed, which means you're in uniform, full pads, guys are chasing you. How do you react to that? And that's where the speed aspect of Kirk comes in.
And it's really to change of direction. He's not just running north and south. There are times that he can stop on a dime, change direction, and now you're looking at possibly a punter trying to tackle him at the end. Now, in this case, there were some other players around there, but if he had to beat one guy, it would be the punter.
24-6 is the final from Sunday against the Washington Redskins. Not a good Week 1 performance for the Cardinals. And with that, let's hear what the Bird Gang has to say as we get to your social media questions using the hashtag CardsCover2. Hashtag CardsCover2. Time for the Bird Gang to sound off as we look at Twitter. A user wants to know about David Johnson's usage. A little bit disappointing, according to this user. What do you think? Edmonds only had 5 fewer carries.
Well, we know David Johnson's going to be the bell cow in this offense, and when you trail 21-0, you can't abandon it. But when you start getting in the 3rd and 4th quarter, you got to throw the ball. Chase Edmonds is going to be a change of pace back. I think every 4th or 5th possession we're going to see him. Now, there are times when we could see both of those guys in the backfield. One can go out for a pass. But in the ideal world, you want to get David Johnson 25 to 30 touches. He was targeted 9 times in the passing game. He had 5 catches there. Obviously, the workload needs to come from running the ball. Chase Edmonds will have a role in this offense, a change of pace guy. But again, David Johnson is the bell cow.
Question from Twitter about the wide receivers. We've been talking a lot about that, and especially the youth in that wide receivers room. But this user wants to know what the Cardinals can do schematically to make it easier for the young guys to be more productive.
Well, they got to protect Sam Bradford, and they got to get into more manageable downs. I mean, if it's 3rd and 10 every time, now you got to run to the sticks. If you get in more manageable downs, I would like to see Christian Kirk on the crossing routes. I want to see Chad Williams get off press coverage and use him on a slant pass. I'm not so fixated on throwing the ball down the field. I want intermediate routes because I know that a couple of guys on this roster, yards after catch.
All right, let's switch over to Instagram. A lot of questions about the Cardinals' offense, and this user wants to know about Sam Bradford's accuracy, if there's any concern about what we saw or did not see.
I'm not concerned because history tells me he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. And we had 2 yesterday. I just think he may be pressing a little bit. And the fact is that they faced a lot of 3rd and longs. And I also feel like he didn't want to make a mistake. Sometimes you got to get in the rhythm of the quarterback where you can start flinging the ball. And when he does that, you're going to see the upside.
Maybe thinking a little bit too much with what he wanted to do with the football as opposed to just reacting to what the defense was showing.
Making the perfect throw.
Absolutely. Another question on Instagram about the offense. Why did we not see balls thrown downfield?
Well, again, if they're putting pressure on Bradford and the whole idea is they want him in a 3-step drop to get rid of the ball, you don't want him taking a 5 or a 7-step drop. Now, again, what's wrong with a 15 to 18-yard pass? It doesn't need to be all these bombs down the field. That's not this offense. It could be down the road once they feel more comfortable, and if J.J. Nelson can open it up. Again, don't get fixated. Would you rather have him go on a 10, 12-play drive and score, or try to throw the ball down the field and get out in 3 and out? So I'm not going to worry about, 40-yard passes, intermediate routes. He has the accuracy to make those throws.
Last question, this on Instagram. How will the Cardinals respond in the next game after this loss?
Well, this should be a wake-up call, and I'm sure practice is not going to be very fun on Wednesday. They should be in full pads. They got to take accountability, and it's one game, and I'm not going to go overboard. I believe in this team. With the team that showed up yesterday is not the team we watched, okay? And so now this is a wake-up call. They've been humbled a little bit. I'm not saying their backs are against the wall, but they realize what's at stake. We talked about how important it was to get off to a good start. It's going to be a tough matchup. One thing to think about this week, Cardinal fans, if the Cardinals win next Sunday, and I know it's a big if, they'll be tied for first place.
Glass is half full. Mike Jurecki over here to my right. Very well done. Cards Cover 2. Hashtag Cards Cover 2. We do it each and every show at the end of the show with you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here from the Cardinals facility in Tempe. We'll be back with you on Wednesday. Wednesday, important day. We'll hear from head coach Steve Wilks. We'll hear from the quarterback Sam Bradford. The first practice leading into the game at the Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals go on the road for the first time this season. 1 o'clock is the kickoff on Sunday. That means an 8:30 a.m. pregame coverage on the Arizona Cardinals radio network. And with that, we'll say so long on this Monday afternoon. Special thanks behind the scenes to Tim Delaney, Jim Alejandro, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Greeley, Jonathan Hayward, Brandon Natus, and Jackson Sipes. For Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. This has been Cards Cover 2.